Hey there, welcome to episode 50 of Social Business Engine, the podcast that showcases industry thought leaders that represent modern business in action through the culture and technology of social. I'm your host, Bernie Borges of Find and Convert. Hey, thanks for listening. On this episode, you're going to meet Brandon Anderson. Brandon is Director of Marketing at Cision, where he works with an amazing team that designs and implements integrated marketing programs, including content marketing, social media, public relations, SEM, SEO, lead nurturing, events, promotions, and webinars. I'm tired just even saying all that, Brandon.
It's a lot.
It is. Now, Brandon, Cision is widely recognized globally as a leading provider of software that's used by public relations professionals to plan, execute, and measure influencer-oriented campaigns in one integrated platform. And Brandon, we are thrilled to be partnering with you and your team to publish Social Business Journal Volume 2, a how-to guide in influencer relations. And of course, that's going to be available at socialbusinessengine.com/Cision, spelled Cision. So all my listeners know to go there to download that journal. So, Brandon, we are here to talk about, you guessed it, influencer marketing. First of all, welcome to the Big 50, episode 50. So
thank
you.
Congrats, 50. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, you know what they say about 50. We're just getting started.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't we begin with kind of the obvious, and that is, even though influencer marketing is kind of a hot buzzword here in 2015, let's just begin with, what is it? What is influencer relations and influencer marketing?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I know you're going to find a lot of different definitions out there, but for me, after being in this business for a while and having a media relations background, at Cision, it's really media and influencer focused. But in terms of influencer marketing, what you're really looking at is you're developing, you're creating content and you're developing relationships with people who have influence over the opinions of other people. So what you're doing is you're not only identifying those people, the big ones who stand out, it's like, oh, Ellen DeGeneres or Oprah. But
Right.
you're looking for the influencers who are in your niche. So it's, finding those people who you notice who are in forums or who are, maybe have a blog, or, it could be even somebody from CNN or Fox News or whatever. But you're finding those people and you're marketing to them so that you're developing a relationship with those people so that then they develop trust with you, and therefore they will then take that message and part of your message through them to their own audience. And it helps you get a more authoritative, perhaps more authoritative person behind your messaging.
So you used the word trust and the word authority, and those are two very powerful words in the world of modern marketing. So when I think of this concept of influencer relations, if every brand wants to connect with an influencer, then isn't there some risk that influencers are going to be barraged by brands and kind of turned off?
Potentially, yes. You could have, and it depends on how you go about it as well. If you are just blindly reaching out to people and you have kind of a generic message to send, yeah, absolutely. We've seen that in the media industry with people who send out generic emails to reporters that have nothing to do with what that reporter wants. And these influencers, if that becomes something that happens a lot, and it's going to probably start to happen, it's going to be those people who take their time, who research the influencer, who understand who that influencer's audience is, and then what that influencer's need is. It's going to be those people who then reach out and develop those relationships who are going to stand out more. Those are going to be people who, if everybody else is doing something wrong, if you're doing something right, you're going to look like you're doing something really, really right. So I think that there's a huge opportunity there if it's done in the correct way.
Sure, sure. Now, Brandon, Cision is really on the front lines with both brands and with agencies that really want to reach influencers and really become successful with influencer marketing. So, are there any challenges or trends that you're seeing in the marketplace because you are on the front lines?
Yes. Oh my gosh, so many. I don't even know where to begin.
We only have 4 hours available to us on this podcast.
Only 4 hours? Excellent. Okay, well, we'll take the whole lot. I mean, some of the challenges, sometimes it's simple things. It's people just taking time to develop a relationship. Sometimes that's one of those problems that you see, and you see the people who are really successful are the ones who develop a real relationship, who do their research. The people who I see not do so well are people who just go after everybody. They don't target. They don't try to get down to an individual set of people or to an individual person. They just kind of say, I just want to I want to reach as many people as possible, so I'm just going to make a big generic message, as many people as possible. And it just doesn't work. And that's a big challenge for us as a company, because we have a ton of information for people to use. And of course, with a lot of information, a lot of that the power that comes with that comes, as they say in Spider-Man, comes great responsibility. And that responsibility is on our clients to make sure that they are utilizing that in the best way possible. So that's definitely a big one. Actually, and another piece, and it goes into influencer relations as well, is content marketing. And who owns content marketing? Is it more of a PR function, because you are creating content, develop a relationship with end users, and then as a result, you actually are developing content that's for influencers, which is a part of influencer marketing, is developing content for those influencers directly. And I think it's just as we see the silos kind of break down between PR and marketing, that creates the biggest challenge overall for both brands and agencies alike.
Okay, you make an interesting point there about the silos breaking down between PR and marketing. I'm kind of surprised that we're even using that expression in 2015, because I remember talking about the concept of those silos a few decades ago. I don't want to date myself too much, but that's been around for a long time. So I'm glad to hear that the whole approach to modern marketing with influencer relations is indeed having an impact on breaking that silo down. What I'd like to understand as we kind of unpack influencer relations, and you've talked about some of the benefits of building trust and authority so that people will actually not only learn about your brand but trust your brand. What role does technology play in this? Because we live in such a marketing technology age now. What role does technology play in influencer relations?
I mean, in terms of how to actually disseminate your message, technology is huge. I mean, the whole concept of social media has flipped everything on its head, and that's entirely technology driven in terms of connecting people. Now, at the end of the day, you're still people connecting with people. So technology has to then take all of these massive amounts of connections and all of this information in terms of, who is talking about what, and basically bringing those all together for a brand and saying, okay, 25,000 people talked about you today. That's a lot of people. It's hard for one person or even a department to look at that and say, okay, I have 25,000 people. I'm going to disseminate information from this just by looking at it. You need technology that can actually take all that information, can factor it all together, and basically push out something that says, here are the messages that matter, and here are the people who mattered, and everybody matters, but here are the people who rose to the top of it, and these are the people who you should probably be connecting with, or here are the stories that you should be really paying attention to. And you have to rely on technology to do that, because it's simply not something that human beings can do alone.
Yeah, so where you're taking my mind on this topic specifically, Brandon, is so you've got to have technology to be able to identify in your example that there's 25,000 influencers, but then what? I mean, like you said, you can't well, most brands can't really engage with 25,000 influencers. So what are methods or methodologies or approaches or strategies to really sort of discern how to engage with influencers when you've in fact identified that there's 25,000 of them?
So let's say you've identified 25,000. Your next step is to figure out which messages are coming through that carry some sort of opinion or weight to them. Some people could just be sending a message just saying like, I bought a new printer, and they mention your brand, which is great. That's awesome. But it might be better to focus on the people who are talking positively or negatively about your brand, because those are the people who are starting to push a little bit more influence, and then also looking at what is their reach.
Right. What is their influence, right?
Yeah. What literally is their influence? What kind of reach do they have? How engaged are the people who, if they have a blog, how engaged are those people who read that blog? And what you need is technology to tell you that information. And that way you can disseminate, this is the person who I should be talking to. And the next step in it is you get this information that says, okay, here are the people who you should be talking to. Based off of all the 25,000 people, here are the 50 who you should really be engaging with right now. Well, the next step then, it comes with technology too, is, well, what matters to those 50 people? I'm sorry to make like a commercial plug here, but at Cision, what we've done is we've identified what matters to those people. We talk to them, into these influencers, and we say, what are you interested in? What kind of things do you write about? What kind of, who is your audience? And then we have that one-on-one connection with them to figure that information out. And then we use technology to build the framework around it, which says, here's this person's audience, here's how much reach they have. And so what you can do is, after you've narrowed down to 50, then do a deeper dive into those people, and then comes, you get outside of technology, use technology to connect, but outside of technology, what you want to do then is connect one-to-one.
Right.
It's no different than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago.
Yep.
You want a one-on-one connection, and you want to develop a relationship with that person, with that influencer, and develop trust.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Brandon, one good commercial plug deserves another one. So I would like to put in a shameless plug for this awesome Volume 2 of Social Business Journal that we have partnered with you at Cision on. It's a how-to guide in influencer marketing where we interviewed business experts on the topic of influencer marketing, what influencers look like, what's the secret sauce. We interviewed and got contributions from very well-known people in the world of marketing and PR, people like Likeable Locals' Dave Kerpen, LinkedIn's Jason Miller, HubSpot's Joe Chernoff, and Laura Fitton, two influencers from HubSpot, Forbes' top 100 influencer Ted Koine, Salesforce's Jeff Roars, SAP's Nick Robinson, the Beancast's Bob Norp, and others. And I really don't have time to list all 21. But in a few seconds, Brandon, what are people going to take away from this ebook?
Oh, from this ebook? So what's great about this ebook is that it's actually broken into different sections. So if you just want some quick wins, some quick takeaways, there's just a section that has quotes from all the people that you mentioned and more, including my friend Chad Pollitt over there at Digital Relevance, Andy Crestodina, who's at Orbit Media. Hopefully they're listening. But what you can do is you have these takeaways of these thought leaders who are just, it's like a real quick, here's what they think of influencer marketing. So you have those, which is great, and I believe that that's already out there on a SlideShare, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
But then we also have more in-depth white paper. There's a whole section on how to succeed with influencer relations, and it really goes into some really good detail in terms of how to do that and how to do that in 2015. So yeah, basically, if you're looking for a quick hitter or if you're looking for something in depth, this ebook has everything. It's
And
great.
something for the boss as well, too. So if you're
Yes.
listening to this and this is something that you need to do and you need to convince the boss, then just download this. Just go to socialbusinessengine.com/Cision, CISION. Now, Brandon, I wanted to ask you a question about something that actually we didn't get a lot of answers to when we reached out to our contributors. So I would like to get an answer from you on this topic.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Absolutely. And so the question was about budget. Like, is there any such thing as the ideal budget that organizations should be thinking about when they're thinking about influencer relations?
Wow, that is a good question.
Maybe that's why we didn't get a lot of answers.
It might be because I could see where that's a minefield. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, realistically, the hard thing with PR in particular is that PR historically has not done a very good job of really defining value in terms of dollars and cents. They've used some old metrics. They've used things like ad value, which actually are inflated. And marketing has done a really good job of finding out, here's how we can actually demonstrate ROI. So what I would say is, based off of your own marketing budgets, and it's looking at, and I think you can probably do this even with free tools that are out there, but kind of determine like what's your audience, and if you have a very, very large audience that you could reach, how much are you spending on banner ads to get to them? How much are you spending on print ads? And then what kind of return are you seeing on those? And then imagine, okay, so if I could take some of that money and implement an influencer marketing program, and I think that I could get this kind of return, because with influencer marketing, what's great is everything's being written online, everything social's online. You can measure all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually measure, I started an influencer marketing program, and I got an uptick of 10% traffic to my website. And of that 10%, here's what they did on the website, and maybe here's what they bought. And so you could even start there and just start and see what kind of impact that has, and then start measuring that. Okay, how does that compare to banner ads? How does that compare to print? And I think what you'll see is that you'll be getting as good, if not better, results for the money that you put into it. And then you can keep growing the budget after that.
And Brandon, for the people that are listening that have never previously embarked on an influencer relations program, so they've never allocated budget, they've never created a program, I think one question that I would be thinking about is, so about how long should I expect before I start to see results?
That's a good question. So it depends on what your strategy is going out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you have let's say you're selling t-shirts and it's all e-commerce driven, when you start engaging with influencers, and as you work through that, I'd say you have to give it at least a few weeks, maybe a month or two, to get things moving to the point where you're developing trust with these influencers, so that they then will talk about you, and they will then engage with you and become a little bit more trusted. But you should then start to see some results. You should be able to start seeing actual dollars coming in. For things such as, like in our industry at Cision, it's B2B, so that sales process takes a little bit more time. People won't necessarily just pop onto our site and buy something right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but I think it just depends on what business you're in, in terms of how long it will take for you to actually see that return. But I would say you should be able to see a return in a similar way that you would see a return from definitely from a PR program. But and the same things, if you're measuring a content marketing program right now, it would be the same, very similar types of KPIs that you'd be measuring from it.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that content marketing is an element of influencer relations, right? You've got to produce content that engages with people that are influential in your market. So
Absolutely.
This podcast is content. So let's do some really good content marketing. Let's give something away, right? Because good content marketing gives something valuable away. Would you agree with me?
I agree.
Okay. So here's what I want to propose that we're going to give away. And I've not briefed you on this. I'm hitting you with this real time.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And so in the few remaining minutes that we have, how can someone listening to this podcast can walk away from this and say, okay, here's how I'm going to go develop my first influencer relations program?
Ooh, how are you just going to walk out of here and say, all right, first steps? Okay. I think the first steps to take is to identify who your audience really is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes we think we know who our audience is, but we need to know who it really, really is.
Mm-hmm.
A first step, if you have something like Google Analytics, you can look at that and get some demographic data, kind of get an idea of how people come to your site. You can look at referrals. How are they getting to you? But then I'd turn over to social and look at it and say, who are these people who are coming to my site? And start looking at the people who they follow. So
Okay.
look at the people whoever your ideal audience is, who do they follow? Who do they listen to?
Who are they
And
influenced
identify some
by?
of those people. Who are they influenced by? And I think that a lot of that is who are, what publications might they be reading?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it might just be who are they listening to on social?
Yeah.
You know?
And so what I like about your recommendation on the strategy is that it sounds initially simplified, and there's an overused cliche. I take a lot of heat for using it because it's been around a long time, and that's the cliche of don't try to boil the ocean. And
Yeah.
I know it's cliche. I know, but I love it because we're so guilty of that so often. And when you're thinking about something that you've never done before, it can feel like you're trying to boil the ocean. And I love how you just simplified it by saying, who's your target audience? And then discover who influences them. And then just go look for opportunities to engage with them in real authentic ways. And then, and that's the starting point. You just start
That's
there.
all it takes. And realistically, and I know that my company sells software. You can do all of that without paying money for something. You can absolutely do that without paying any money for anything. And when you're ready to ramp that up, then other paid things come up. But start there.
Right. When you're ready to ramp it up in a way that you can scale, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm totally with you on that. Okay, cool. All right. So let's segue now, Brandon, to my one thing question.
Oh.
And it shouldn't hurt. Shouldn't hurt. But this is where I ask you if there's any one thing that you could change about the way that business is conducted today, what would that be?
Don't boil the ocean. No. Sorry. I couldn't resist.
It's a good one.
If there is one thing, my background is actually in a bit of product development as well. And one of the things that I've learned from marketing, from product development, from consulting, and I think that a lot of people just have trouble doing this, is they don't listen. You need to listen, and you need to listen to, obviously listen to your CEO, listen to your boss, but listen to your customers.
Like really listen. Don't just
really
listen.
Well, and not only listen, but ask. Ask and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying so much already out there. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to your prospects, people who aren't clients yet. Listen to them. What are they saying? How are they interpreting your brand? That's the kind of information that is going to give you so many insights into who you should target for influencer marketing. It's going to also tell you, here's where we should probably be advertising. Here's the media outlets we should be targeting. Here's the type of products we should be making. All of that information comes from listening.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just take a moment, step back, and just listen, you would be amazed at what you're going to find out. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing that's going to drive real long-term strategy for a business to succeed.
Yep. Great advice. Great advice. And I would even say it's maybe a little bit challenging in the hyper fast-paced world that we live in, because it takes a concerted effort to do that. You know, you've got to make the conscious effort to go do that.
And I think a big part of it too, I think it's the effort. I also think fundamentally people are scared of what they'll hear.
Yeah.
I think that they might actually be scared, because it'd be like, wow, I don't want to be told that what we've been doing is wrong.
Right.
And you know what? It's better to find out that you're doing something wrong than just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Now, Bernie, we talked about this. You have yet to answer the one thing, and this is the 50th podcast. 50th. I feel like this is a milestone. So if I may, what is your one thing?
My one thing. So my one thing is a little bit different. I mentioned earlier that I might be dating myself, and without putting a number to my age, it does predate the digital age. And so one of the things that kind of bothers me about the digital age that I would like to see change is kind of a mindset, maybe even an etiquette thing, Brandon, and that is that business is conducted 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day, and that sometimes people don't shut it down. And the truth is, it kind of sucks me into that, It sucks me into checking my email 7 days a week, morning, noon, and night. And so I would like, because I remember the days when that wasn't the case, just from a technology standpoint. So if I could change anything, it would be sort of an unwritten rule that, when it's family time or weekend, that, unless it's really necessary, that, just turn it off. That would be my one thing.
It's a good thing. I could get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who couldn't. Anyway, but I guess that's a matter of opinion, right?
It depends on if you're having a problem with something on the weekend and you need somebody to go after.
Right. Like I said, if it was necessary, I totally understand.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's not. But well, I appreciate you asking me that. And on the anniversary of the Big 5-0 episode, let's go ahead and segue to our final closing here. And of course, Brandon, this is where you get a chance to share with people how they can connect with you online, learn more about Cision, wherever you want to take it.
Absolutely. So if you'd like to connect with me, I am on Twitter and at the handle at Brandon Chicago, like the city, which I actually need to change here pretty soon because I moved to Florida. So I'm no longer Brandon Chicago. I am Brandon, kind of middle of nowhere, Florida. But if you want to connect with Cision, it's at Cision. We produce tons of great content over there. And I think that you really like, you'll love the content that comes out of there. All free, all very, very, very helpful content. And then if you'd like, go to cision.com, and we have a blog there as well that goes into influencer marketing, content marketing, influencer relations, public relations, you name it, anything in the communications and marketing field, we are covering it over there.
Terrific. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me here today for the Big 5-0 episode and for talking about influencer relations. And if you don't mind, what I'd like to remind folks to do is before they go to Cision.com, that they go to socialbusinessengine.com/Cision, CISION, so they can download the Social Business Journal Volume 2 on the subject that we discuss here today, influencer relations, and that they should follow the hashtag SBJV, as in volume 2, SBJV2, for content in the social channels around this awesome ebook. I also want to remind people to visit our video channel where they can catch interviews with other inspiring business professionals like yourself, Brandon, who are succeeding in modern business through social. And lastly, I like to ask people if they enjoy this podcast, that I would really be grateful if they'd write a review on iTunes. And we've made that easy. All I have to do is go to a page that we've already set up called socialbusinessengine.com/iTunes, and it takes links directly to this podcast in iTunes. So that is a wrap for episode 50. Until next time, this is Bernie Borges of Find and Convert, wishing you continued success on your social business journey.